everybody? Good? Great. All right. So this is going to be we did a whole conference, as Neil indicated, several weeks ago on this subject. So this is a distillation of everything in the conference into a half an hour, less than a half an hour to allow you to ask questions. All the slides will be available to you. You don't have to copy down anything. Some of these slides are very dense, have a lot of information. I apologize that much of this information is North America centric, but I didn't have time to get a lot of information about Asia, but many of the trends are the same, as we've heard about smartphone adoption and so on. Okay, so you heard about me yesterday. I was originally a lawyer. Now I do some other things, cover the mobile space, location-based advertising, small business advertising. You can find me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter at @gsterling. This was the conference we hosted, the PLACE conference, and we'll do others in Europe and perhaps Asia. A lot of companies there, very interesting exposure to a new market that's emerging. So how many people have heard of indoor location at all? Okay, so some people, they're all sitting at the same table, strangely. No, so...
Because you were sitting at that table.
That's right. All right. So this is what I'm going to talk about. The sort of structural background for indoor location, the technology, some of the market trends, and consumer behavior, privacy, and then some examples. So this is an example of one of the dense slides. Basically, what are the benefits? Why is this happening? Why indoor location? So it's a new area for marketing, for analytics, made possible by Wi-Fi infrastructure and other technologies, smartphones, and competition among big mapping players who were outside, now moving inside with venue maps. It offers an improved customer experience in stores, analytics for malls, casinos, retailers that offer some very interesting insights. We get new ROI metrics, online to offline, which will have a profound impact on online advertising, mobile advertising. And it represents the completion of this online to offline marriage that's happening by virtue of smartphones. So mobile is a bridge between the online world and the offline. You get data from what's happening offline that can go online, check-ins and so on. And then you get to bring the internet in your pocket into stores, airports, museums, hospitals, universities, and other places. And it's the beginning of the Internet of Things, where devices are connected by sensors and data are being generated by all manner of interactions. And that's the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And this is where Neil lives, right? It's true. So there are many use cases for indoor location. Casinos are not on here, but Oscar and I were talking about casinos. Transportation, education, hospitality, hospitals, retail. Some of these things have commercial application, and some of them are just helpful to the venue owner and to the consumer or to the user. So we don't need to go through all the smartphone adoption data. We saw that yesterday. Smartphones have reached critical mass in the U.S., North America, Europe, and Asia. This is mobile internet traffic, which is growing dramatically. We heard statistics about that yesterday. In the U.S., and I'm sure this is also true in Asia and Europe, we have different surveys and different sources of research, and they show the same thing. Majority of consumers now go into stores and they use their phones for research, pricing, product information. They take pictures of products and send them to their friends. How many people do this themselves? No? This is a tired audience. Okay, well there's coffee and sugar outside, so that's coming next. Anyway, this is the majority of consumers are doing this. 60%, 70%, 80%. Those people that have smartphones are in stores doing research already. That's very significant because you're not asking for new consumer behavior to support this. As I said, the infrastructure or the beginnings of the infrastructure are in place. Smartphones are at critical mass. no new consumer behavior, and in certain situations, they will share in-store, they will share location information to trade for distinct benefits like personalization, discounts, helpful information. So what about the technology? Okay, I've got my stopwatch running here, so I have over time. So there are a bunch of technologies. This is not exhaustive. RFID, NFC is not on here, near field communications, surveillance cameras, Wi-Fi, acoustics and sound waves, LED lighting, magnetic energy. There's a bunch of different technologies. Bluetooth 4.0, Bluetooth Low Energy as it's called. And all of these things support the ability to locate consumers or people inside stores and places. They are not all equally prevalent. As I said, in Europe and in North America, Wi-Fi is more prevalent than other surveillance cameras in retail stores, and then Wi-Fi are the two most prevalent technologies. But other technologies will be introduced and distributed in the market. So each one of these has positives and negatives. So this is a slide I started to do, but then it's controversial because different vendors are pushing different technologies. And they all will tell you that their technology is the most accurate or the best. But none of these is perfect. They each have challenges. One may be more accurate than another. One may be more costly. One may already be deployed, one may not. So there are different arguments in favor of different technologies. Throughout the world of location-based technology and identifying users, there's a whole range of things. Some of them are less accurate, some of them are more accurate, some of them have greater reach, some of them have smaller reach. This is just a kind of hierarchy of these different technologies. In the end, we're not going to see a single standard emerge. What we'll see is a mix of technologies to locate people inside buildings. How many people have had any experience with this at all? A few people.
That they know,
Well, that's true. That's true.
right? Because it's happening to all of us and we don't know it.
Well, but I mean, where you participated, you've gotten a map inside a store, or you've gotten some sort of offer or notification based on your presence in the store. So this is a chart showing global proliferation of Wi-Fi. So there's lots of Wi-Fi around the world. Most retail locations now have some sort of Wi-Fi, hotels, of course. So that infrastructure, which was created originally by private companies for their own internal use and then was opened up to consumers, has now formed the backbone of this infrastructure. There's a lot of interest now. When I say Bluetooth Low Energy or Bluetooth 4.0, are people aware of what this is? No?
Why don't you explain?
All right. The sugar will really help later in just a few minutes. So Bluetooth Low Energy is a new Bluetooth standard being introduced. Apple has embraced it with their new operating system, iOS 7. They support it. PayPal is using it for payments now. With this device in the lower left, you can see you plug it into an outlet, and it can track people. It can also manage payments. This, on the right, is an Estimote beacon that can be placed anywhere on a wall, on a shelf. It emits a Bluetooth signal. And there's a trade group called the In-Location Alliance, and these are some of the companies that are part of it. It has maybe 100 companies that have signed on. And they're promoting indoor location and Bluetooth Low Energy specifically as a technology standard. So what are some of the other trends and drivers that are pushing this market forward? Well, mapping apps have been very popular until last year, really. About a year ago, Google Maps was the top mobile app in North America, may also have been in Europe as well. The top local app or location-aware app. It now has more users in mobile than the PC. Microsoft, Nokia, and Google competition are also driving this forward. So Nokia in particular has really been trying to collect venue maps, floor plans from different locations, stores, hospitals, retailers, and so on. boundaries of locations, you can do some very interesting things with respect to tracking people going into stores who may have seen ads or promotions. You can start to report on that. So that is where you get a sort of a new metric that can be used for ROI calculation, which is quite a big deal. This is an example of some of the stuff that Nokia has done. This is the distribution of their venue maps, malls, grocery stores, department stores, transportation, airports, and other locations, including parks, casinos. I mean, this is really dramatically applicable to a lot of different situations. And here's the list of 50,000 buildings, 45 countries, 450 million square meters, and so on. Time check, okay. And they're adding 1,000 venues a month, they say. Another independent development is the desire to move beyond a click. So for a very long time, people have criticized clicks as the performance-based ad ROI metric. It was sort of an accident that clicks became the standard because they were trackable and measurable, but they are blind to everything that happens offline for the most part. And in the online display context, display advertising, not search, but display advertising, they don't really adequately reflect the value of those ads. There have been a number of studies that have shown that. Clicks do not necessarily mean the ad has had an effect or had not had an effect. These are just two studies that represent that clicks are a bad metric in many instances. Here you see relative conversion metrics for the PC, tablets, and smartphones. And these really are just about e-commerce. So how many people have bought anything through their phone? Actually concluded a transaction through their phone. Many people have. Movie tickets, Amazon tickets, airline tickets, travel. Yeah, so smartphone transactions are growing, but most people will do research on a smartphone and then complete a transaction on a tablet or PC. Most people do not buy lots of things through their phones. So that leads different firms to report these kinds of numbers, which gives you a completely inaccurate picture of the relative influence of these different channels. Smartphones are tremendously influential, but the conversions happen offline for the most part. This is US data, just to illustrate the point that e-commerce, 186 billion US in 2012. Retail plus services, the economy is 7.3 trillion. And my calculation, which is admittedly rough, of the value of the online to offline market, the internet and mobile internet influencing offline transactions that happen in the physical place, roughly 2 trillion, just under 2 trillion, which is about 10 times the value of e-commerce. And that is not being reflected in the ROI data. It's basically just not, people are not seeing that impact. And that's been going on for more than a decade. So now there's an increased effort to close the loop, to be able to track these online to offline actions. And there's a whole bunch of things that are being tracked. Proxy metrics, click to call, map lookups, click to get directions, coupons, which have been the most commonly used method over time, but there are challenges, in-store redemption challenges, tracking that. Sometimes check-ins, Foursquare, for those of you familiar with it, has the ability to report check-ins. QR code scanning in stores at the point of sale. Mobile payments. And then in some cases, data partnerships where, for example, Datalogics, which is a company that captures loyalty card data and credit card swipes, is partnered with Facebook and Twitter, and they are reporting that data back to their advertisers. You showed your ad, somebody went into a store and purchased something, and so they're trying to close the loop and improve value. This is totally independent of venue mapping, all of this stuff, but it's fueling this indoor location movement. How many people are, this was referenced by James, I think yesterday, or it came up in the conversation, Google's estimated total conversions. How many people are familiar with this? The person from Google says he is. That's good, because you can keep your job now.
Part of the 10 days of training.
What's that?
Part of the training.
Yes. So this is a new program that Google has implemented based on signed-in Chrome users. Every time you use Chrome, if you use Chrome, Google is trying to get you to sign in. Part of the reason for that, they want to personalize your experience. but they also want to see your data. And they want to see, as you move from tablet to smartphone to PC, what you're doing for the purpose of reporting back to advertisers. Now, they're using anonymous aggregated information, but they're going to generalize from a sample of users about how effective, what the behavior was. So now they'll be able to see people move in this multi-screen world from one device to another, and then next year, they're going to start to report on offline store visits as another part of this. So this is quite a significant development, and it may ultimately change business models. Instead of buying clicks, you may buy store visits, or you might buy something else. Performance-based advertising over time might take on new dimensions as a result of the ability to measure this. How am I doing in time?
You're doing fine.
Good.
I'll let you know.
Okay, are you guys totally bored? Yeah. No, good. Okay. That's my worst fear, that I would be bored. So indoor consumer behavior. I alluded to that earlier. What do people do? Again, my apologies, this is U.S. data that Opus Research, whom I work with, collected. But this is very similar to other studies and probably quite similar to other regions of the world. So what do people do? They look for discounts or offers. Now, that doesn't exist in every culture, but it does in the U.S. They compare prices on products. Is this TV the best price that I can get? They use shopping lists. They look at reviews and product information. These three red highlighted items are the ones that are consistently at the top of all the surveys. They send pictures to friends and family for opinions. Should I buy this sweater? Is this the one we want? They look for stores that also carry the same product nearby. They may post questions to social networks. What do you think about this? Does anybody have any information? And then some number of people buy an item. And again, this is quite consistent with other surveys. Here's European data from ComScore. This is interesting because the top three activities all have to do with consulting friends and family in different ways about whether you should buy something. Took a picture, sent a picture, texted, or called.
Well, that data I showed yesterday, about 60% of the Asia market uses social media to make a purchase decision.
Right.
That's very much tied into what you're saying.
Right, so this is social shopping, but through the mechanism of the mobile phone in the store to get advice or input. So you've all heard the term showrooming, where people will go into a store, verify that the product is what they want, and then buy it online for less money. So,
Something I would think Alibaba loves.
right, so how many of you have done something like that?
Timothy smiling.
No, you're all very loyal to your brick and mortar retailers. So this is a common behavior in North America now, also likely in Europe, and I would guess that some percentage of people in Asia also do this. But we have two contradictory pieces or pieces of data that are in conflict with one another. The Interactive Advertising Bureau in the U.S. did a study in which they found that people who did this research in stores were more likely to buy products. Using a smartphone in the stores made me more likely to buy the product. 2/3 said that. My firm also did this recent research in September, and we found that among people under 53, it's a weird sort of cutoff, but nonetheless, half of those people have decided not to buy something in a store as a result of some information they discovered. So it cuts both ways. Having all this information can make you more confident to make a purchase. It can also dissuade you from making a purchase. Privacy is a major issue. I'm not going to discuss this at length. There's a lot of regulatory and legal questions here, but this is Pew Research Center survey data from the United States. And what it says basically is, how important is each category of information in terms of your control over that information? And location emerges as something that people are somewhat or very concerned about. 70% say they want to control who knows where they are. Okay, so it's a very high area of sensitivity. Now, a lot of people have checked into physical locations, retail stores, restaurants, bars, and so on. The majority of smartphone owners have done that at some point. And of that group, a majority will share their location with a merchant or retailer to get a deal or to get loyalty points or something along those lines. And a substantial number, half of those people, will share in their location for personalized content or other exclusive information. So when they understand what the benefits are, people will share their information even though they're quite sensitive to the privacy concerns. A company called Swirl, which is a vendor in this indoor location space, found that in the US, half of female shoppers would share their location for some of these same things, offers, personalized content, and so on, gift. So when people understand the benefits clearly, they're happy to share their information. This is the Macy's is a US-based retailer that has an app that's personalized and that's location sensitive, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. That's one of my examples. Basically what this slide says is that consumers don't want to be tracked. They consistently express ambivalence or opposition to being tracked online, but they do like personalized experiences. So these are a list of the kinds of personalized experiences that consumers are interested in. They can be delivered through a mobile app, which is powered by some sort of in-store location technology. You go into the Macy's store in New York, and it changes to reflect your location. You can get coupons. It shows you maps where products are located, what maps of the store and where products are located. So this is actually the final section here.
You still got time.
Okay. So these are some examples, just a handful. There are many examples. This is all real. It's all happening now. So this is the Macy's, picture of the Macy's app that I just referred to. And so what this reflects is maps of the store. And they have these, I don't know if it's true throughout all their stores, but it's true in many of them. So you can plug in a product or a brand, and it will give you turn-by-turn directions in the store to that department. They can notify you about deals or offers as you move through the store. You're in the furniture department, you're in children's clothing, and they can send you notifications to the app. Here's a special offer, here's something new. They can actually control the navigation path if they want to promote something. They can do many different things to promote brands, promote products. You can integrate product databases, so you can search for a very specific product and be taken directly to that. The experience, of course, depends on the venue or the store. Here's some very preliminary data. Basically, adding this indoor location and related information increased engagement and made more people download the app. They expressed an interest in having this kind of information. These are pictures from a video by a vendor called Aisle 411. They have a relationship, I think, with Lowe's, which is a big hardware, not home services, it's a big hardware sort of store chain in the United States. And what this reflects is that the app allows you to call a sales associate. You're standing in an aisle, you have a question about a product, you can hit a button, and then a sales associate will come to you because they know precisely where you are in the store. So this is the kind of thing that creates a better in-store customer experience. In airports, you can so there's a whole world of analytics that's separate from these consumer experiences. You can see how people move through stores, through malls, through different venues like an airport, and you can change things to minimize wait times, to improve the flow, and so on and so forth. This is a map that was one of the vendors called Eye Inside. This is a Chicago airport.
One of the things I learned at the conference Greg ran was that, retailers and shopping centers are now going to start charging their merchants based on the traffic flows that they see. So as they see all of this traffic, they're going to be able to say, well, that location has better traffic flow than this location. Some of this stuff I think
Yeah, there's all kinds of B2B implications. They can optimize rents and
Right.
leases.
Yeah.
It's just the extent of the data now and the applications are quite interesting, and I do allude to that a little bit. So this is a picture I took in the San Francisco airport actually before I got on the plane to come here. And it says, the security checkpoint is being expanded. The improvements will also enhance the passenger experience by providing special wait time technology that informs passengers of anticipated wait times proceeding through the checkpoint. So this is another example of indoor location that's being implemented. This is real sign, an example of this kind of thing. And that was just 2 days ago. This is a map of part of a mall, and this is a mall owner, landlord, and what they can do is they can figure out where are the hot spots in the mall, as Neil was suggesting. Where do people go? What stores do people go to? So they go to store A, and then they go to store B, and then they go to store C. They can figure out the affinity between stores so they can do a better job of placing stores, recruiting stores, so they know that people who shop at Forever 21 also shop at H&M and so on and so forth. So there's all kinds of things that can be learned about consumer behavior that were not possible before that have implications. Store displays can be monitored for their effectiveness. You can tell whether somebody spent time at a display and then went to the register to pay, so you can see, you can do A/B testing in stores about layout. Staffing, this is a chart that reflects, this is a real chart that reflects when stores are crowded, what the staffing needs are. You can determine how many people you need in order to adequately deal with the traffic flow. You can do things like figure out how staffing levels impact purchases and basket size. When we have more people, we sell more stuff.
Or how you can run specials to get people in when, the
Right.
in and out the flows.
Right, inventory sort of management, literally and figuratively in terms of time. Here's a small business example. This is my, I think my final example. Then we'll have just 1 or 2 minutes for questions. Powell's Bookstore is a small business bookseller, relatively small bookseller independent bookseller in Oregon, in the United States. They have an app, so this shows that small businesses can do this too. It's a big store, but their app shows they have advertising, they have indoor mapping to take you to an area where you can find a book. They're generating revenue from this. There's advertising revenue that's coming from this. Also, they're generating more revenue because people are able to find things. Very often people come into stores and not be able to find things that lead. Well, now you can lead people to these products, and they can do self-service. So what I didn't get into, because I don't have time, is the idea of brands bidding for consumer attention inside stores. There's a company that launched, it's going to have an auction to send notifications or present ads to consumers at a store or shelf level. You're in a grocery store and 2 competing food manufacturers want to offer you a special. So this kind of thing is more speculative, but there's already some movement around there. So in-store advertising, there's billions of euros and dollars spent annually on trying to influence people with signage, with advertising in stores. Some of that will flow into the digital realm when people are most ready to buy these store situations. So this is essentially my last slide. The market is sort of developing in phases. Some of these are overlapping. So we have venue mapping going on now. The retailers and these B2B analytics, getting information on customer movements in stores and malls and casinos is starting to happen. The online to offline ROI and ad tracking is also starting, as you saw with the Google example. The in-store consumer experience, the better apps, the mapping, the enhanced and personalized content, that's still in its very earliest stages. And then this indoor marketing, indoor advertising that I alluded to is the most speculative, and how that'll play out very much remains to be seen, but it's definitely something that will happen. And so there are potentially billions of dollars and euros that are implicated by all of this stuff. It's too early to say how much this market is worth and how it'll play out, but it's definitely going to be a dramatic set of developments that impact online advertising, data gathering, analytics, the way that venues conduct their business, malls, etc., retail stores. So it's really something that's quite interesting to pay attention to. The way it impacts you in all probability is the sort of online to offline ad tracking, because that will, in the relatively near future, become a standard. So publishers who are selling advertising to small businesses or not so small businesses will need to start offering metrics that show how many customers were delivered to a physical location as a result of the exposure to an ad or promotion. That will definitely be something that rolls out in the not too distant future. Here's my contact information if you want to follow up with me about this or anything else. And
Well, I would add that you know, some of the publishers in here have done stuff for the shopping centers. I know that in Hong Kong, PCCW, you all have a lot of stuff going on in the shopping center arena. This is going to be information that you're going to need, I think, is going to become much more important as you think about the value proposition you're delivering back to your mall owners. So I think across the spectrum of companies, this whole notion of our devices defining our shopping process and patterns is really going to be a very big deal.
right, and devices will interact with digital signage
Right.
and screens in stores. So there's all kinds of scenarios that we didn't even really get into. I know that we're out of time, but if there are one or two questions, we can take them. No? Oh, yeah.
One question in the back, Matt.
Hey Greg, this was really interesting.
Can you? I know that Google, in fact, is looking at this very seriously. So maybe you can tell us about what they're doing.
I'm not the best one to speak about what Google's doing, although some of the wearable stuff seems interesting, but that's not my area of expertise. But I am concerned about, is this another place that SMBs are going to fall behind? If you look at what it means to be ready for this, if you got to have accurate product information, your stores geolocated, there's just a lot of organizational effort. And the examples you gave, Lowell's, Powell's, go with a pretty big bookstore that is this a place where SMBs are not going to be ready? What can we do to help them be ready
Well,
to take advantage of it?
right, third-party store inventories online, and that will be helpful in this situation when people search for inventory to see where it's located. In very small stores, so in situations where the plumber or the somebody comes out to your
Service
house,
providers
this-
probably won't be as
yeah,
effective.
they don't, people that don't have a physical location, this isn't gonna matter for them. But for small stores, the indoor analytics stuff is very interesting because they can see if they have a display in the middle of the floor, are people going to that display? Or are they going to the wall? What's their path through the store? So that can be helpful for even the smallest businesses. And with those Bluetooth low energy beacons, they're very inexpensive. You could put 3 or 4 of them in a small store and get access to that information. But you'll still need a third party probably to educate you and show you how to do it. But the costs are relatively low here for small businesses to get involved. And some of the indoor analytics data will be helpful to them in just operationally how they construct their store layouts and run their businesses.
I think the cost will be having small businesses figuring out how to use the data, because the data will be out there, but having them figure out how to make use of that data and what's the implication, and maybe they should put the women's running shoes over here now instead of over here. That's going to be the aha that they're going to need.
They'll definitely need help seeing what's possible and understanding how to interpret and then implement it.
Last question for Sid over there on the right, and then Tabo, you want to join us up here?
So I have sort of 2 parts to this question, Neil. One is, how important do you really think knowing the location of the consumer is? Because that's good information for us, but the consumer doesn't really care, because if it's a store, as long as you can see where the things are placed and from the entrance where to go or on the first floor take a ride, etc., he can get his job done. So is he really interested in giving us his coordinates? That's one part. And the second part, which is related, which is, if it's a small business, implying it's a small store, The owner probably sits there and he can see everybody doing whatever they do all day long, and he knows exactly what's working and what's not. So does he really need all of this technology to make that work for him?
So in a small physical store, you may not need, this may not be as necessary, although I just talked about getting data. Maybe the store owner, the business owner isn't present at all times. And so if you're not present at all times of day, maybe you don't see everything that's going on. And there are probably insights that the store owner is not aware of. But that's right, it may not be as necessary in those situations. In terms of the consumer giving up his or her information, as I indicated, there are some very distinct use cases in a big store, in a large institutional situation, an educational institution, a museum, a hospital, a mall, where there are very tangible benefits, maps, and also when you can find products that might otherwise be difficult to find.
In an aggregated sense, we've already given up the information. I mean, they're tracking you whether you know it or not.
But not really, because GPS devices don't work in store more often than not. So once you enter a mall, then the GPS goes off almost always.
Well, this is a substitute for that.
That's precisely my point. So is it just too much technology?
Technology in search of an opportunity?
That's
No, I don't think so, because I think the insights to retailers are very valuable and store owners. And I think in certain cases where it's well executed, you can really provide a better consumer experience. And that could be a great loyalty thing for particular retailers.
Certainly in the case of as an enterprise for large chains and retail stores, and large from Macy's or whatever, to figure out what's happening in their store. But they too will only get a percentage of the people, because everybody's not going to do that, and that may give them skewed results.
So here's a scenario, and then I should get off the stage with the next speaker. So let's say it's a small restaurant. So one of the things that they could do is they could run a loyalty program, okay, where nobody has to check in. You can identify. I mean, somebody could identify themselves as they come into the store, and then their visits are being tallied for some future award or incentive. But you can create such a program so that there's passive location awareness, and that could operate to support a loyalty program. I mean, I'm just sort of spontaneously coming up with this off the top of my head.
That's what Shopkick was doing on the
Shopkick?
Shopkick on the big brand, and this would be on the same.
Right. So the point is that there are very many use cases that haven't been discovered yet. I should go. I'm happy to talk to you.
Let's do next time.
Tabo needs to get up here. I think this is, I'm glad that there's so much conversation about it, because it was my idea to have Greg do this presentation. I think it's a fascinating topic. I think the more people have their cell phones with them as they're in their shopping experiences, the more data is going to be collected, the more insights can be available, and I think it's going to start at the big box, and it's going to roll downhill too. All right, Greg, thank you very much. A warm round of applause for Greg Stewart.